Olivia Chisholm stood at the busy Murtala Muhammad Airport, her suitcase beside her and her heart full of excitement. This trip was supposed to change everything. She and her fiancé Tchukwu had planned it for months. A trip to Dubai for a big international fashion expo. For Olivia, it wasn't just a flight, it was the beginning of her dream. Her small fashion brand was finally being noticed, and this expo could open doors she had prayed for. She had even designed a special outfit for the trip, a beautiful Ankara blazer that made her feel proud of her roots. As she checked the time, she smiled, imagining their photos together at the airport, the takeoff, the future they had always talked about. Tchukwu was on his phone, pacing and talking about investors and opportunities. But she didn't mind. She believed they were a team, his business mind and her creative heart. She had no idea the man she loved was about to change her life in the most painful way. Still, at that moment she held on to hope. Her boarding pass in one hand, her heart in the other. Olivia believed she was flying toward her destiny. The final boarding call echoed through the airport speakers, and Olivia smiled, ready to walk hand in hand with Tchukwu toward the gate. But suddenly, his voice turned cold, sharp in a way she had never heard before. "Olivia," he said quietly, not meeting her eyes, "I think you should stay back. You'll embarrass me in front of the investors. You're not polished enough for this kind of trip." For a moment she thought it was a joke. She laughed softly, waiting for him to smile back. But his face stayed hard, his tone final. "I'll handle the expo myself. You can join later, maybe." Her heart dropped. "Tchukwu, what are you saying? We planned this together." He cut her off with a sigh, eyes darting around as if he was ashamed to be seen with her. "Please, Olivia. Don't make a scene. I have an image to protect." And just like that, he turned and walked away, blending into the line of passengers boarding the plane. Olivia froze. The boarding pass slipped from her fingers. She watched through blurry tears as the man she loved, the one who once promised forever, walked out of her life like she was nothing. Her legs felt weak. People around her stared, whispering softly, some in pity, some in judgment. A flight attendant gave her a sad look and said, "Miss, are you boarding?" She couldn't even answer. Her lips trembled, her chest tight. She sank onto a chair, clutching her bag like it was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. In that cold airport air, surrounded by strangers and silence, Olivia realized something that broke her even more. He had never planned to take her with him. The man she trusted had just left her behind, not just at the gate, but in life. Olivia stood frozen as the gate closed. The plane that was supposed to carry her dreams, and her fiancé, had just taken off without her. Around her, people whispered, "Did he just leave her?" One woman murmured. Another shook her head, pity in her eyes. Olivia tried to ignore them, but every word felt like a knife cutting deeper into her heart. Her chest tightened. She blinked fast, trying to stop the tears, but one slipped down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away, pretending to check her phone. There were no new messages, no missed calls, not even a text from Tchukwu. She opened their chat, hoping maybe he'd explain, maybe say it was a misunderstanding. But the last message was hers. "I'm here, love. Can't wait to fly with you. Seen." No reply. The airport announcer's voice echoed over the speakers, calm, robotic, emotionless, but to her it sounded like mockery. "Flight EK208 to Dubai has departed. Gone." Just like that. Her dream trip, her relationship, her peace. Gone in one moment. She sank onto her suitcase, surrounded by people rushing past her, all heading somewhere. But she had nowhere to go. The girl who came to the airport full of excitement now sat there like a forgotten story. She scrolled through her phone, searching for a distraction. Maybe a friend to call. Maybe someone to talk to. But her screen stayed empty. Everyone she wanted to reach felt far away. Olivia's reflection in the glass window caught her eye, her mascara slightly smudged, her eyes red, her spirit shattered. Yet somewhere deep inside, a tiny voice whispered, "Don't cry too long." He walked away, but your story isn't over. She didn't know it yet, but that heartbreaking scene, a woman left behind at the gate, was the moment destiny quietly began to rewrite her life. Olivia sat there in silence, her eyes still fixed on the glass where the plane had disappeared into the sky. She felt hollow, like her heart had been left on that runway. Around her, people came and went, but one man nearby didn't. He had been watching quietly from a distance, noticing the pain in her eyes and the way she tried so hard to hold herself together. He was tall, calm, and confident, dressed in a perfectly tailored navy blue kaftan that spoke of quiet class. After a moment, he walked toward her, not out of pity, but with a kind of gentle concern. "Excuse me," he said softly, his voice warm but steady. "Are you okay, miss?" Olivia looked up, quickly brushing a tear away. She forced a weak smile, the kind people wear when they're trying not to fall apart. "I'm fine," she said, even though her voice trembled a little. He looked at her for a second, then smiled kindly. "You don't have to be," he said, pulling out a clean white handkerchief and handing it to her. "Not everyone deserves your loyalty. Sometimes, losing someone is the best thing that can happen to you." His words hit her heart like truth she didn't want to hear but needed to. She took the handkerchief with shaking hands, whispering, "Thank you." He nodded, stepping back slightly, giving her space but not leaving. There was something grounding about his presence, calm, respectful, almost protective. For the first time that morning, Olivia didn't feel completely invisible. As the crowd moved around them, she looked at the stranger and wondered who he was. His eyes carried understanding, like he'd seen heartbreak before but turned it into strength. She didn't know it yet, but this small act of kindness, from a man she'd never met, was about to change the entire direction of her life. Olivia sat quietly, still holding the handkerchief he'd given her. The stranger stood nearby, giving her a moment to breathe. For the first time since Tuchukwu left, the world felt a little less cruel. Then suddenly his phone rang. A sleek, expensive phone that buzzed softly in his hand. "Excuse me," he said politely, stepping a few feet away to take the call. His tone changed, calm but commanding. "Yes, tell Mr. Martins I'll be in Dubai in 5 hours. Yes, the jet is ready. Make sure the files are on board." Olivia's eyes widened. The jet? She blinked, thinking she must have misheard. Who was this man? He didn't look like someone ordinary. Everything about him spoke of quiet power. When he ended the call and turned back toward her, she tried to hide her surprise, but he caught it immediately. A small smile tugged at his lips. "You were supposed to fly to Dubai, right?" he asked. Olivia hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, I was. But I guess plans changed." He looked at her thoughtfully for a moment. "Well," he said, his tone light but sincere, "my flight still has space. You could come along, if you don't mind flying private." Olivia blinked, unsure if he was joking. "Private? You mean like a private jet?" He chuckled softly. "Exactly that. It's headed to Dubai anyway. I hate flying alone." For a second, Olivia didn't know what to say. Just an hour ago, she had been abandoned, broken, and humiliated. Now a total stranger, one who apparently owned a private jet, was offering her a seat to the same destination she'd been left behind from. It felt unreal, like life itself was trying to apologize for what had just happened. She looked up at him, unsure whether to laugh, cry, or say yes. But deep down, something told her, this wasn't just coincidence. This was fate opening another door. Olivia stared at him, unsure if she'd heard right. A private jet? From a stranger? It sounded too unbelievable to be real. She clutched her bag tighter, her voice quiet but cautious. I don't even know your name," she said softly, searching his eyes for some kind of clue. He chuckled, the sound calm and confident. "That's fair," he replied, holding out his hand. "I'm Adrian Kalu." He paused for a moment, watching the recognition flicker in her eyes before adding, "CEO of Kalu Holdings." Olivia blinked. The name rang a bell. Kalu Holdings was one of the biggest investment firms in Nigeria, a name she had heard Tuchukwu mention more than once in his business talks. Her heart skipped. "Wait, Kalu Holdings?" she asked slowly, her voice shaking a little. "You're that Adrian Kalu?" He smiled knowingly. "The same. And if I'm not mistaken, Tuchukwu works with a few of my investment partners." Olivia's eyes widened in disbelief. "You know Tuchukwu?" Adrian nodded, his tone calm but layered with meaning. "Very well," he said, glancing at her with a slight smirk. "Let's just say, this will be a very interesting flight." Olivia didn't know whether to laugh or gasp. The man who had just offered her a ride to Dubai was not only successful and kind, he was one of Tuchukwu's investors. The irony hit her like a wave. Her heart raced. Part of her still hesitated. Could she really trust a stranger? But something about Adrian's presence felt safe, grounded. He wasn't trying to impress her. He was simply being real, calm, and surprisingly understanding. She looked at him, then at the empty gate where Chichukwu had left her, and whispered almost to herself, "Maybe God really doesn't close a door without opening another." Adrian smiled gently. "Exactly," he said. "Now are you ready to see what your new door looks like?" Minutes later, Olivia could hardly believe what was happening. The same airport where she'd been left heartbroken now led her to a gleaming white private jet parked under the golden Lagos sun. The air smelled of jet fuel and sea breeze, and everything around her felt like a scene from a movie. Only this time, she wasn't the girl being left behind. She was the one being invited forward. Adrian walked beside her, calm and confident, as a crew member greeted them with a polite smile. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Kalu." The door to the jet opened smoothly, revealing a world Olivia had never seen before. Soft cream leather seats, warm lighting, quiet music playing in the background, and the faint scent of expensive cologne mixed with lavender. She paused at the entrance, almost afraid to step in. "Are you sure I can?" Adrian turned to her with an easy smile. "Olivia, you've had a rough morning. The least I can do is make sure your day ends differently." She finally stepped inside, her fingers brushing against the polished table surface as she sat down. Everything felt unreal. Just a few hours ago, she had been crying at the gate. Now she was on a private jet with one of the most powerful men in Nigeria. Adrian poured her a glass of juice and handed it to her. "Here," he said softly. "You look like someone who needs to breathe again." Olivia smiled faintly, the warmth of the cabin melting away her cold memories. "Thank you," she whispered. He leaned back in his seat, studying her for a moment before saying something that would stay with her forever. "Sometimes rejection doesn't destroy you. It redirects you to your destiny." Olivia looked out the window as the jet began to move. The engines roared, the world below started to shrink, and for the first time that day she smiled. Not because of what she lost, but because of what she was finally stepping into. As the jet soared smoothly above the clouds, the world below looked small and distant, just like Olivia's heartbreak. The sky outside was painted in shades of gold and white, and the hum of the engine filled the quiet cabin. For a while she said nothing, still trying to process how life had turned around in just a few hours. Adrian, sitting across from her, watched calmly, giving her space to breathe. Finally, he broke the silence with a gentle smile. "So, tell me about you, Olivia. What do you do when you're not being left behind by unworthy men at airports?" She let out a small laugh, the first real one since morning. "I run a fashion brand," she said shyly. "It's small for now, but it's my dream. I design modern outfits using African prints, pieces that tell our stories in bold colors and strong lines. I want the world to see Africa through beauty and pride, not pity." As she spoke, her voice grew stronger, more alive. Her hands moved as she described her work, the fabrics she used, and how she wanted women to feel powerful wearing her designs. For a moment she forgot the pain. She was glowing. A woman talking about what she loved. Adrian leaned back, listening carefully, his eyes never leaving her face. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "You know," he said softly, "you don't need anyone's validation. You already have what most people spend their whole lives searching for: purpose." Olivia smiled faintly, surprised by how deeply his words touched her. "Sometimes it just feels like no one sees it," she whispered. He leaned forward slightly, his tone steady and sincere. "Then maybe what you need isn't more approval," he said, "but a bigger platform. And I can give you one." Her eyes widened, not sure she heard right. "What do you mean?" He smiled, a mix of mystery and warmth. "You'll see soon enough. Destiny has a funny way of connecting people at the right time." Olivia looked out the window again, her reflection mixing with the clouds, and in Dubai, the International Fashion Expo buzzed with energy. Bright lights, famous designers, and global investors filled the grand hall. Chichukwu walked among them with a confident smile, shaking hands and bragging about his upcoming deals. He wore his best suit and carried himself like a man who had everything under control. When someone asked about his fiancée, he laughed casually. "Oh, Olivia? I had to leave some distractions behind," he said proudly. "Business comes first." The investors chuckled politely, impressed by his focus. Chichukwu felt powerful, certain that leaving her behind was the smart move. But fate was already setting the stage for his humiliation. Just as he began his presentation, the large double doors of the expo hall opened. Heads turned. Conversations stopped. Cameras clicked. Adrian Kalu entered, tall, composed, every bit the powerful man investors admired. But what caught everyone's attention wasn't just Adrian. It was the woman walking beside him. Olivia. She looked breathtaking in a fitted Ankara gown that shimmered under the lights, bold, graceful, and undeniably confident. Her natural hair framed her face beautifully, and the pain in her eyes had transformed into quiet strength. She wasn't the same woman who was left crying at the airport. She was glowing, radiant with purpose. Tchukwu froze mid-sentence. His smile disappeared. "Oh, Olivia?" he stammered, almost choking on her name. Adrian glanced in his direction but didn't stop walking. Olivia carried a sleek black folder filled with business documents. Her business documents. When they reached the main stage, the announcer greeted them warmly. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Adrian Kalu of Kalu Holdings, and his newest collaborator Olivia Chisholm, founder of Olivia Afrique." The entire room erupted in whispers and applause. Cameras flashed, capturing Tchukwu's face as the truth hit him. The woman he called a distraction had just arrived as the star of the S.